Welcome to the Global WarWatch Network. What if the next global conflict isn't announced on the news but silently unfolds in your computer? We live in an increasingly digital world, but this reliance comes with a terrifying vulnerability. This video exposes the shocking reality of cyber warfare and reveals how modern nations are precariously vulnerable to digital attacks.
That's a powerful and, frankly, pretty unsettling thought to start with, isn't it?
It really is.
Because when we really unpack this, the pervasive nature of our digital reliance isn't just a convenience. It's become the very bedrock of our modern life.
Absolutely.
Think about it. The power grids that light our homes, the water systems providing clean drinking water, our personal banking, the communication networks we use every single moment. It's all intricately linked, all online. This ubiquitous connectivity, while incredibly efficient and undeniably convenient, has, quite paradoxically, ushered in a new invisible battlefield.
Right, a digital one. Conflicts are now fought not with bombs and bullets in traditional trenches, but with lines of code. The very fabric of our digitized society, from the most critical infrastructure to the simplest personal interaction, is under constant evolving threat.
And what's truly fascinating, and maybe somewhat alarming here, is that we're far beyond just theoretical threats now. We've entered a concrete reality where digital attacks are not just happening, they are actively shaping geopolitical landscapes and profoundly impacting our everyday lives.
Yeah, it's not sci-fi anymore.
Not at all. So for our discussion today, we're going to synthesize insights from a range of sources, most notably the comprehensive ARMA's State of Cyber Warfare and Trends Report, 2022-2023.
Yeah.
Our mission really is to give you a clear, actionable understanding of this new frontier, to explore the current state of digital conflict, delve into its profound impacts, and crucially, to identify the critical path forward for both individual organizations and entire nations.
Okay, sounds like a plan. To really grasp the gravity of this silent evolution, let's begin by drawing a clear line in the sand. What exactly is cyber warfare, and how is it fundamentally different from the everyday cyber attacks we hear about?
That's the key starting point.
So when we talk about cybersecurity, in essence, we're talking about protecting our digital data and networks, right? From damage, unauthorized access, disruption, making sure they're available, integral, confidential.
Exactly. Basic protection.
A cyber attack, on the other hand, that's a broader umbrella term. It's any malicious action that undermines the functions of a computer network. Could be anything from, like, temporarily disrupting a website to stealing sensitive info, often for political or national security reasons.
A whole range of things fall under that.
But cyber warfare, that's a specific and, frankly, far more serious subset. This isn't just about a breach, it's the use of cyber attacks that inflict harm comparable to what you'd expect from actual physical warfare.
Yeah, real-world consequences.
Or those that disrupt truly vital systems and services on a national scale. It's now widely recognized as the fifth domain of war, standing equally alongside land, sea, air, and space. It's a conflict fought in the realm of electrons, essentially.
That distinction is absolutely crucial because cyber warfare possesses this unique characteristic we call transversality.
Transversality, okay.
Yeah, unlike traditional warfare, which is almost always violent and physically destructive think tanks, bombs, direct physical harm, cyber warfare isn't necessarily so. For example, it could involve a sophisticated computer virus designed to silently disrupt or permanently deny access to an enemy's critical database.
Right.
That could cause catastrophic damage to their economy, their logistics, or their public services, all without any physical force or violence being overtly applied.
So damage without destruction in a physical sense.
Precisely. And what's more, it can involve artificial agents, like self-replicating viruses or intelligent worms, targeting other artificial agents or informational infrastructures, maybe a nation's entire banking system, or its vital energy grid, rather than directly targeting human beings or physical structures.
Right, code attacking code or code attacking systems.
Exactly. This ability to cut across traditional distinctions, violent or nonviolent, civilian or military targets, human or artificial agents, physical or non-physical domains, that's what fundamentally differentiates it. And this truly raises an important question. How do we even begin to apply our traditional concepts of war, our international laws, and our ethical frameworks, which were all built for a physical battlefield, to something so fundamentally different, so intangible, yet so potentially devastating?
Our existing rulebooks just weren't written for this, were they?
They really weren't. They often struggle to keep pace with this new digital reality.
And the motivations driving this silent evolution into cyber warfare are as compelling as they are, well, concerning. For one, there's a remarkably low barrier to entry.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Consider this. Cyber weapons are significantly cheaper to develop and deploy than traditional military arsenals. To give you some context, our sources show the United States spent around $400 million on developing cyber conflict technologies, while the UK devoted $650 million.
Okay.
Now, compare those figures to the billions, even trillions, required for conventional military hardware like aircraft carriers, fighter jets, or tanks.
Huge difference.
This relative affordability means that sophisticated cyber capabilities are accessible not just to powerful, technologically advanced nations, but also to smaller states, and even to well-funded non-state actors or organized criminal groups. It's a truly democratizing force in the realm of conflict, if you can call it that.
It levels the playing field in a very unsettling way.
Another incredibly powerful motivation is the elusive concept of plausible deniability.
Yes, the who did it problem.
Exactly. In the digital realm, attackers can ingeniously mask their identity. They do this through layers of proxy servers, bouncing signals across the globe by utilizing vast botnets, which are essentially networks of hijacked, compromised computers.
Thousands of them sometimes.
Or even by employing third-party mercenary hackers. This layering makes it extraordinarily difficult to definitively trace an attack back to its true source. Imagine trying to prove who sent a digital missile when it appears to have launched from 1,000 different locations simultaneously, many of them just normal home computers.
It's incredibly complex.
This complexity severely complicates efforts for immediate retaliation or the imposition of international sanctions. It creates an environment where malicious actors can strike with a troubling degree of impunity, sowing chaos while remaining largely anonymous.
They can hide in the noise.
And finally, cyber warfare offers a significant asymmetric advantage. Less powerful nations or groups without the resources to build large conventional armies or advanced air forces can dramatically level the playing field. All they need is a keyboard and sophisticated code to potentially target and disrupt critical systems in advanced, highly digitized countries, causing widespread chaos that rivals a physical assault.
A keyboard warrior, but with potentially devastating impact.
Yeah.
It's a truly unsettling shift in the balance of power.
Absolutely.
And building on that, the actual characteristics and trends of cyber attacks themselves are undergoing this constant, rapid evolution. They're becoming far more sophisticated, faster, and more targeted. We're seeing attackers adapt at an unprecedented pace, strategically choosing their targets and cleverly leveraging both emerging technologies and current global instabilities to their advantage.
They're learning quickly.
Very quickly. And a major driving factor in this accelerated evolution is artificial intelligence, or AI.
AI. Okay, how is that changing things?
Well, AI is, quite literally, democratizing destruction in cyberspace. It's significantly lowering the barrier to entry for cybercrime, allowing individuals and groups with far less technical skill to wield powerful tools once reserved for elite state actors.
So you don't need to be a coding genius anymore.
Not necessarily to cause significant damage, no. Think about it. AI can now generate incredibly convincing phishing emails, create deepfakes that are nearly indistinguishable from reality, and even conduct phishing calls that's voice phishing with synthesized voices that mimic real people.
Wow, that makes spotting fakes much harder.
Much harder. This makes social engineering far more effective. More broadly, AI enhances the scale, speed, and overall effectiveness of existing attack methods, leading to a projected surge in ransomware attacks and large-scale disinformation campaigns that weaponize these incredibly convincing fake audio, video, and images.
So AI is like a force multiplier for attackers.
Exactly. And ransomware, in particular, continues its reign as a top global threat. It's constantly evolving, incorporating AI and even more sophisticated techniques. We're now seeing double extortion.
Double extortion.
Yeah, where attackers don't just encrypt your data and demand a ransom to unlock it. They also steal it and threaten to leak it publicly if you don't pay. This adds an immense layer of pressure.
Nasty.
Very. And then there are supply chain compromises, where an attacker breaches a software vendor to then access all their customers. This is facilitated by platforms known as Ransomware-as-a-Service, or RaaS, like the infamous Revil group.
Ransomware-as-a-Service, like software subscription, but for crime.
Essentially, yes.
Yes.
These platforms have effectively democratized access to these powerful, destructive tools, allowing even less technical operators to encrypt and exfiltrate sensitive data from a victim's network within mere hours of gaining initial access. It's like a factory line for digital extortion.
That's incredibly efficient in a terrible way.
It is. We're also witnessing an alarming acceleration in what we call zero-day exploitation.
0 days.
Yep.
Those are the unknown vulnerabilities.
Precisely. Vulnerabilities in software that are completely unknown to the vendor,
Yeah.
meaning there's no existing patch available to fix them. They are, in essence, secret backdoors. There's been a significant spike in their exploitation, especially in widely used platforms, simply because these offer the biggest bang for the buck for attackers.
Maximum impact.
Maximum impact. Our data indicates that over 25% of vulnerabilities exploited in the first quarter of 2025 were attacked within just 24 hours of their disclosure.
Within 24 hours, that's incredibly fast.
It's a race against time for defenders. Privilege escalation flaws, particularly in fundamental system components like Windows Common Log File System or CLFS, a critical part of how Windows operates, are a leading cause of these zero-day exploits, with sophisticated groups actively using them. This puts immense, almost impossible pressure on IT and security teams.
Always playing catch-up.
Always. And this brings us to the sheer volume of what we call common vulnerabilities and exposures, or CVEs. These are publicly identified and cataloged cybersecurity vulnerabilities.
Right, the lists of known flaws.
Exactly. We're projecting nearly 50,000 new CVEs for 2025 alone. Think about that number.
50,000! How can anyone possibly keep track?
It's absolutely overwhelming. This makes it incredibly difficult for defenders to prioritize which vulnerabilities to patch first, to figure out which digital holes to plug when there are thousands of new ones appearing annually. Despite this challenge, vulnerability exploitation was linked to a significant 20% of breaches in the 2025 Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report. This puts it squarely on par with stolen credentials and even ahead of traditional phishing as a primary method for attackers to gain initial access.
So patching is crucial, but it's a losing battle in some ways due to the volume.
It's a constant struggle. And as I mentioned, social engineering, which preys on human psychology, is expected to become even more sophisticated due to AI's ability to create highly convincing fake content. This means credential abuse and phishing continue to be the top initial access methods. It's a constant arms race.
Human error remains a major weak point.
Always. Finally, and perhaps most disturbingly, we are witnessing a very troubling shift toward kinetic cyber threats.
Kinetic, meaning physical impact.
Exactly. This isn't just about stealing data or disrupting a website. This refers to cyber attacks capable of causing physical destruction in the real world, leading to tangible real-life consequences.
Like blowing something up with code?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
A stark historical example is the 2017 Triton malware, which was specifically designed to target and disrupt safety systems at a Saudi Arabian petrochemical plant, almost causing an explosion.
Terrifying.
Another alarming case was the 2021 attempt to poison a U.S. city's water supply, a direct threat to public health. More recently, the Armis research team publicly disclosed a set of 3 zero-day vulnerabilities, collectively known as TL Storm.
TL Storm.
Yes, potentially impacting over 20 million APC smart uninterruptible power supply devices. These are the battery backups that keep critical equipment running during power outages.
Right, I know those.
Exploiting these vulnerabilities could allow attackers to weaponize these UPS devices, for instance, by tampering with the voltage to the point where they overheat, short-circuit, and even start burning, physically going up in smoke.
So the device itself becomes a weapon?
Precisely. These are not just digital disruptions. They represent a very real possibility of life-threatening consequences and the physical destruction of targeted infrastructure. It truly blurs the line between the digital and physical battlefield.
That truly sounds like something out of a techno-thriller, except it's horrifyingly real. Given the evolving nature and sheer destructive potential of these attacks, it's crucial to understand who these high-value targets are. Moving beyond broad campaigns, what specific sectors are under the most intense fire?
Well, unsurprisingly, critical infrastructure, or CI, sits right at the top of that list.
Makes sense. Power, water.
Exactly. The indispensable systems. Power grids, water systems, financial institutions, communication networks. Their disruption, even for a short time, can cause widespread chaos, endanger lives, and cripple entire economies. And here's a critical vulnerability. Many of these industrial control systems and operational technology, ICS and OT systems, which are vital to operating CI, are unfortunately outdated.
Old tech running vital stuff.
Often, yes. They often rely on legacy security methods that were never designed for today's sophisticated threats, making them particularly enticing targets.
We've seen terrifying examples of this vulnerability playing out in real time, haven't we?
We certainly have.
Back in 2021, the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack, for instance, severely disrupted U.S. fuel supply for days, led to widespread panic, long queues at gas stations, shortages across the
I
Southeast.
remember that vividly.
Then, just last year, in November 2023, the DP World Australia cyber attack crippled port operations for 3 days, causing a massive backlog of 30,000 shipping containers impacting trade and daily goods.
Huge economic impact.
And going back a bit further, in 2013, hackers managed to gain control of floodgates at the Bowman Avenue Dam in the U.S. These aren't just IT headaches or financial losses, they are direct threats to our daily lives, to basic services we rely on.
Absolutely. Healthcare is another sector, squarely in the crosshairs.
Healthcare. Why them specifically?
It's uniquely vulnerable due to its vast attack surface, meaning countless points of entry for attackers, and the severe, immediate impact attacks can have on patient safety and critical medical processes.
Lives are literally on the line.
Exactly. The data from our sources is sobering. In 2022 alone, 89% of healthcare organizations experienced an average of 43 attacks. Think about that volume.
73 attacks per organization. Wow.
And the average cost of a healthcare data breach stands at a staggering $10.1 million USD, which is higher than the average for all industries combined.
That's massive.
Imagine the chaos that unfolded in Ireland's health service executive in 2021 when a Conti ransomware attack cost an estimated $600 million USD, forcing a complete return to paper-based processes and leading to the cancellation of 80% of patient appointments.
600 million and crippling patient care.
More recently, in November 2023, Ardent Health Services experienced a ransomware attack that directly impacted critical care services across their network. And in a chilling, tragic incident, a German hospital cyber attack in 2020 caused a network outage and tragically contributed to a patient's death.
So it's not just data loss, it's actual harm.
You can be. And finally, government agencies themselves are the third most targeted sector, particularly by nation-state actors.
For espionage disruption.
Exactly. Intelligence gathering, operational disruption of government services, or direct political influence. Our sources reveal that in 2020 alone, 79 ransomware attacks against U.S. government agencies cost approximately $18.8 billion in recovery and downtime.
$18 billion.
A stark and immediate example is the Conti ransomware attack on the Costa Rican government in 2022. This wasn't just a data breach. It was so severe that it led to a state of emergency being declared across the country, with a staggering 97% of stolen government data subsequently leaked online.
A whole country brought to its knees digitally.
It underscores how deeply integrated cyber warfare is becoming into geopolitical strategies, directly affecting the functioning of nations.
So beyond those big three, CI, healthcare, government, are other industries feeling the heat too?
Oh, absolutely. The threat landscape is incredibly broad. Financial services, as you can imagine, are under constant attack with ripple effects that can destabilize global markets. For instance, the ICBC Financial Services ransomware attack in November 2023 significantly disrupted the U.S. Treasury market.
Showing how interconnected everything is.
Precisely. Manufacturing has held the unenviable position of being the top attacked industry for 3 consecutive years, accounting for over a quarter of all reported incidents in 2024.
Manufacturing. Why them so much?
Well, there are serious concerns, not just for traditional IT systems, but for operational technology, OT, that controls factory floors, for personally identifiable information, PII, of employees and customers, for operational downtime that can halt production lines, and crucially, for intellectual property, the blueprints and designs.
Stealing secrets, basically.
And causing disruption. Retail and logistics sectors have also become hotbeds for advanced persistent threat groups. These are highly skilled, often state-sponsored or well-organized criminal groups that establish a long-term presence in a network.
Like digital spies setting up shop.
You could say that. We saw this with the Marks & Spencer Group attack in April 2025, which cost an estimated $27 million and directly affected 16.9 million customers. Consumer-facing industries, with vast customer data and complex supply chains, are increasingly lucrative targets.
Lots of data to steal or ransom.
Exactly. And for obvious reasons, the defense industrial base, or DIB, thousands of defense contractors and subcontractors, are high-value targets for espionage and disruption. The National Defense Corporation ransomware attack in March 2025, for example, successfully exfiltrated a massive 4.2 terabytes of sensitive data.
4 terabytes? That's huge!
Including procurement documents and critical supply chain information. This creates long-term risks, potentially compromising national security across the entire DIB.
And you mentioned supply chains earlier. That seems like a recurring theme.
It's a massive, pervasive issue across all these sectors. Many breaches, surprisingly, don't start with a direct, head-on attack on the victim organization itself. Instead, they originate through a trusted third-party vendor or service provider.
Coming in through the back door, essentially.
Exactly. Think of it like an attacker finding a weaker backdoor into your house rather than trying to bash down the front door. The number of affected software packages in supply chain attacks has surged dramatically, from a mere 700 in 2019 to over 185,000 in 2022.
That's an incredible jump.
It is. Gartner, a leading research firm, even predicts that by 2025, a staggering 45% of organizations worldwide will experience attacks on their software supply chains. There's a threefold increase from 2021.
Nearly half of all organizations.
Yeah. The Dollar Tree third-party breach in August 2023, for instance, affected nearly 2 million people, not through a direct attack on Dollar Tree, but via one of their trusted vendors. It's a clear and potent illustration of this growing and often underestimated risk.
So you're only as secure as your weakest link, including your vendors.
Precisely.
And the financial fallout from these attacks is nothing short of staggering, isn't it? Hitting organizations and entire economies right in the wallet.
The numbers are truly eye-watering.
Cybercrime as a whole is projected to cost a colossal $15.6 trillion globally by 2029.
$15.6 trillion.
And the average cost of a single data breach in the U.S. is an eye-watering $9.44 million USD. Globally, that average stands at $4.35 million USD. These aren't abstract figures. They represent massive disruptions, lost revenue, and significant impacts.
Real money, real consequences.
Let's put some specific numbers and names to this. Low-End Depot, January 2024, $27 million in costs, impacting 16.9 million customers. July 2024, the CrowdStrike incident, a global IT outage. Over $1 billion estimated costs from widespread disruptions affecting airlines, banks, healthcare.
That was huge, yeah. Rippled everywhere.
MGM Resorts, September 2023, over $100 million in direct financial losses, plus another $10 million in one-time costs, all from a social engineering attack.
Just from tricking people.
The British Library, hit in October 2023, facing recovery costs up to £7 million. Even cultural institutions aren't safe.
No one is immune.
Mr. Cooper, another mortgage servicer, October 2023, ransomware attack impacting 14.7 million customers, $25 million in costs. Even looking back to 2017, the infamous NotPetya attack cost shipping giant Maersk over $200 million.
A landmark case.
And zooming out, the total economic loss from supply chain attacks alone is forecasted to reach an incredible $138 billion by 2031. These aren't just numbers. They tell a clear story of escalating financial devastation.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these costs and the perception of the threats are not uniformly experienced or understood across the globe. The Armis report highlights some really significant regional differences.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, for instance, U.S. IT professionals express the highest level of concern about the impact of cyber warfare. They're followed by their counterparts in APJ, that's Asia Pacific, Australia, Japan, Singapore, and then EME, which covers Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
So the U.S. feels most threatened.
Some seems that way, based on the survey responses.
Correct.
And when we look at actual breaches experienced, U.S. organizations again report the most activity, with 73% experiencing one or more breaches. This compares to 58% in EMEA and 53% in ATJ.
So the concern matches the experience, perhaps?
It looks like it. The U.S. also saw the highest increase in overall threat activity over recent months at 45%, compared to 36% in APJ and 25% in EMEA. This data points to a more intense and active threat landscape in the U.S., which could explain those higher levels of concern.
Okay. What about how they're responding? Any regional differences there?
Yes, quite notable variations in cybersecurity practices, too. U.S. companies are most likely to invest in cyber insurance, 45% do, compared to 37% in APJ and 31% in EMEA.
Interesting. Hedging their bets more.
Perhaps. They also report fostering a stronger security-focused culture at 44% versus 37% in EMEA and 33% in EPJ. Similarly, the U.S. leads in implementing a formal cyber risk framework, with 43% doing so, compared to 34% in APJ and 31% in EMEA.
So more process-driven in the U.S., it seems.
The data suggests that. However, it's worth noting that employee education on cybersecurity shows broadly similar responses across all regions. 51% in the U.S., 49% in EMEA, and 45% in APJ.
That seems universal, yes. There's also high agreement across regions that holding sensitive data requires following strict regulations, 91% in the U.S., 84% in APJ, 83% in EMEA, and that IT security has become more important with smart working models. 91% US, 85% APJ, 81% EMEA.
Okay, so some similarities, some key differences. Exactly. These regional variations underscore that while the threat of cyber warfare is undeniably global and borderless, the perception, preparedness, and response strategies vary significantly, reflects different regulatory environments, cultural attitudes, maybe even geopolitical priorities. It's a global problem with distinctly local responses.
That's a fascinating look at the global landscape. Now let's pivot to one of the most persistent and frustrating problems in cybersecurity, the attribution problem.
Ah, yes, the whodunit of the digital age.
Exactly. This refers to the immense difficulty in definitively identifying the source of cyber attacks. Imagine trying to catch a ghost.
The very design of the internet contributes significantly to this challenge.
It really does.
Think about it. The widespread use of proxy servers bouncing connections across multiple computers, onion routing networks like Tor encrypting and relaying traffic, and the fundamental fact that IP addresses only identify machines, not the individuals or organizations operating them.
Layers of anonymity. All of this makes tracing attacks incredibly complex. A perfect example is the Mirai botnet attack, where malicious actors exploited thousands of everyday internet-connected devices, security cameras, smart home gadgets, turning them into instruments of attack. This effectively masked the true attacker behind a smokescreen of legitimate-looking traffic from countless sources.
Hiding in plain sight, almost. This anonymity allows malicious actors to operate with a deeply troubling degree of impunity.
It seems almost impossible sometimes.
And that's where the legal perspective offers a slightly different lens. While technological barriers to attribution certainly exist, some legal scholars argue that the attribution problem is often overstated from a purely legal standpoint.
Oh, how so?
Well, the law, you see, doesn't demand absolute irrefutable certainty, a smoking gun in every case. Instead, it relies on a sufficient degree of certainty based on compelling circumstantial evidence.
More like building a case based on clues.
Exactly. Similar to how many complex criminal cases are successfully prosecuted without direct eyewitnesses. And when we look at history, we have seen successful attributions even for highly complex state-sponsored attacks.
Like Stuxnet.
Consider Stuxnet, for instance, back in 2009-2010. That extraordinarily sophisticated malware targeting Iran's uranium centrifuges, designed to cause slow, gradual havoc. It was only discovered when a security firm was troubleshooting mysteriously crashing computers in Iran. Through painstaking forensic analysis looking at the code, its characteristics as targets, it was eventually attributed.
So technical forensics played a key role.
A huge role. Then there's the Sony attack in 2014. Hackers raided Sony Pictures, downloading records and unreleased movies. The FBI attributed this to North Korea within just 25 days.
That was quite quick. How did they manage that?
They cited a confluence of factors. The means used, the obvious motive, that filmed the interview. Forensic similarities to previous attacks linked to North Korea, like Dark Soul. Green language settings found deep within the malware's code, intelligence from internet staging points, and crucially, sensitive intelligence gathered through covert means.
So a mix of technical evidence and intelligence.
Precisely. And of course, the DNC hack in 2610. Russian agents compromised DNC systems, leaking internal reports. U.S. intelligence attributed this to Russia, citing consistent operational patterns aligned with Russian time zones and holidays, despite the possibility of red herrings like Cyrillic signatures being deliberately planted.
Even with potential deception, they pieced it together.
Right. These cases demonstrate that while difficult, attribution is achievable, often through a blend of technical forensics and intelligence.
Okay, so maybe not impossible, just very hard.
Exactly. And these successes underpin a proposed legal framework that some experts refer to as the law of attribution.
The law of attribution. Tell me more.
This framework suggests a set of trans-substantive rules, meaning these rules would apply regardless of the specific legal or political action that might follow attribution. However, the seriousness of the potential punishment, like military action, would naturally influence the strictness of the procedural rules and the standard of proof required.
So the rules adapt based on the consequences.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It advocates for an adversarial model rather than an inquisitorial one. In this model, parties, typically states, are primarily responsible for presenting their evidence to an impartial adjudicator.
Why adversarial?
While the international realm lacks a centralized, trusted judicial authority typical of inquisitorial systems, and the parties themselves are often best positioned to acquire and present sensitive technical evidence, often derived from covert intelligence operations.
Got it. Makes sense in an international context. What about the standard of proof?
Under this proposed framework, The standard of proof would generally be a preponderance of the evidence, meaning it's more likely true than not. This standard is seen as a way to encourage competitive information production and make legal judgments more likely, thereby enhancing the deterrent effect.
So, not beyond a reasonable doubt, usually.
Not usually. However, and this is a critical point, for cases where military action is a proposed or threatened countermeasure, given the severe consequences of error, the standard would ratchet up significantly, perhaps to a reasonable doubt standard, similar to criminal law.
Okay, higher stakes, higher bar.
Exactly. A critical aspect addressed is state responsibility for non-state actors. How do you attribute attacks carried out by private groups, but potentially with state support?
The proxy problem.
Right. It draws on existing international state responsibility doctrine. To overcome limitations allowing states to easily escape responsibility, it proposes a virtual control test. This test would shift the burden of proof to a state to demonstrate non-responsibility if it funded, equipped, or otherwise materially supported a private entity that conducted an attack.
Put the onus on the state to prove innocence.
Essentially, yes, under certain conditions. It also includes an affirmative defense of reasonable steps or due diligence, allowing states to prove they took all reasonable measures to prevent violations by non-state actors within their reach, even if an attack still occurred.
So they can show they tried to stop it.
Finally, to handle the presentation of sensitive intelligence without compromising national security secrets, the framework would employ procedural rules like ex parte hearings, where only one party is present, and in-camera hearings held privately in the judge's chambers. Records could also be sealed.
Allowing secret evidence without public disclosure.
Yes, a critical mechanism for nations. However, it's acknowledged that this comes with a trade-off in public transparency and the perceived legitimacy of the judgment. It's a complex balancing act between security and openness.
That's a comprehensive framework for attribution, but it still feels like navigating a dense fog at times. And beyond these specific challenges of attribution, regulating cyber conflict internationally faces broader systemic hurdles that really complicate things, doesn't it?
Absolutely, there are huge challenges.
There's a profound lack of global consensus. We simply do not have an international agreement on what precisely constitutes a cyber act of war, what responses are acceptable, or even how states should respond. This deep ambiguity creates a dangerous vacuum where rules are unclear and the potential for miscalculation or escalation is ever present.
The digital Wild West in some respects.
Compounding this, we face wildly divergent definitions. What one nation defines as critical infrastructure might differ dramatically from another, making international cooperation incredibly difficult. How do you defend something collectively if you can't even agree on what it is?
Yeah, that's a fundamental problem.
Then there's the sheer chaos introduced by non-state actors. Hacktivists, cybercriminals, mercenaries. They can inflame international tensions, sometimes acting independently, sometimes as thinly veiled proxies for nations. Groups like Killnet and Anonymous have repeatedly shown they can disrupt and influence,
Adding another layer of complexity and unpredictability.
And here's a critical difference from traditional warfare. Malware doesn't respect borders. Unlike a physical army, a cyber attack can easily cross national boundaries, leading to significant collateral damage affecting neutral or allied nations caught in the digital crossfire.
Spillover effects are common.
We saw a vivid illustration in 2025 during the India-Pakistan cyber flare-up, which amplified chaos and involved actors from Turkey, Bangladesh, China. Similarly, the Israel-Iran cyber dimension in June 2025 mirrored physical strikes, involving over 100 threat groups and significant regional spillovers. This truly is a borderless battlefield.
A digital spark can ignite a wildfire anywhere. And that borderless nature, that transversality we discussed earlier, leads us directly into some profound ethical challenges when we try to apply traditional just war theory, or JWT, to cyber warfare.
Right, the old rules for war, how do they fit?
Well, JWT, with principles like war as last resort and more good than harm, was developed for conventional kinetic conflicts, where physical violence and casualties are the primary concerns.
Doesn't map neatly onto cyber, does it?
Not easily. The war as last resort principle, for example, struggles immensely when cyber actions are, by their nature, bloodless and non-physical. A cyber attack might even be launched with the stated goal of averting a physical war, yet it could still be considered a first strike, potentially violating JWT's traditional prohibitions.
A preventative strike, but still a strike.
Exactly. The more good than harm principle also presents a deep dilemma. Traditionally, this focuses on minimizing casualties and physical damage. But how do you assess harm when a cyber attack destroys a digital database, permanently erases historical records, or disrupts critical public services without causing a single physical injury?
If there's no blood, is there no foul? Seems wrong.
It feels inadequate, right? This is precisely where traditional frameworks fall short, forcing us to rethink our moral compass. This leads us to consider macro-ethical theories, like information ethics, which proposes an ontocentric approach centered on the very nature of existence.
Information ethics. Okay, tell me about that.
In information ethics, the infosphere is defined as the totality of what exists, physical, non-physical, online, offline, everything. The theory posits that all entities within this vast infosphere have a fundamental right to exist and to flourish.
So information itself has value, has rights.
In this view, yes. Therefore, moral evaluation in cyber warfare shifts to considering the effects on informational entities, our data, knowledge, digital infrastructures, and on the overall well-being of the infosphere itself. It defines informational entropy as the ultimate evil to avoid.
Informational entropy, like digital decay.
Exactly. The destruction, corruption, pollution, or unjustified closure of the infosphere. Think of it like digital rust, the degradation of knowledge and information. This framework then offers specific principles for just cyber warfare, waged only against entities endangering the infosphere, and only to preserve its well-being.
Restore balance. Don't cause more chaos.
Precisely. The goal is to restore the status quo, reduce existing entropy, not to promote it or increase further digital degradation. So what does this all mean? The unique nature of cyber warfare demands entirely new ethical considerations that traditional frameworks struggle to encompass. We are in uncharted moral territory.
That's a truly profound way to reframe the ethical landscape. So, with all these escalating threats, the complex ethical dilemmas, and the sheer financial devastation, how prepared are organizations for this new reality? The data seems concerning.
It paints a worrying picture, yes.
Despite ongoing efforts and significant investments to improve defenses, a staggering 7 out of 10 organizations still experienced a cyber attack last year. Even more alarmingly, nearly a quarter, 24% of global organizations openly admit they feel unprepared for cyber warfare specifically.
That's a big gap in confidence.
It points to a widespread underestimation of threats. Our sources indicate that nearly a third of global organizations are either indifferent or surprisingly unconcerned about cyber warfare, and preventing nation-state attacks is often surprisingly a low-priority security element for them.
Almost like burying their heads in the sand.
It seems that way. And this prevailing lack of preparedness isn't just a security issue. It's having a tangible, chilling effect on innovation. The constant threat has actually stalled or completely stopped critical digital transformation projects in over half of the surveyed organizations.
Fear is hindering progress. That's significant.
A huge contributing factor is persistent resource and human capital shortages. Many critical infrastructure organizations operate with notoriously limited budgets for cybersecurity. Compounding this, there's a significant chronic skills shortage globally, millions of unfilled cybersecurity jobs.
The talent gap is real and growing.
This makes it incredibly difficult and costly to find and retain the necessary talent, leading to increased demand for third-party services. Healthcare CIOs, for instance, are particularly struggling to retain key tech and security talent, leaving their already vulnerable systems even more exposed. It's a perfect storm of vulnerability.
It really is. Given these formidable challenges, a robust, multifaceted approach to building digital fortresses is no longer optional. It's absolutely essential.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, one key strategy is robust vulnerability management. This isn't just reacting. It involves continuous scanning for weaknesses, aggressive patching protocols, and regular penetration testing to proactively find and fix flaws.
Being proactive, not reactive?
Exactly. With the overwhelming volumes of CVEs we discussed, nearly 50,000 projected for 2025, automation is no longer a luxury. It's essential for efficiently prioritizing and managing these potential entry points. You need tools to keep up.
Makes sense. What else?
Another absolutely critical component is comprehensive incident response and disaster recovery. Organizations must develop detailed, regularly tested incident response plans, or IRPs.
Having a plan for when things go wrong.
A well-rehearsed plan.
Yeah.
Clear communication strategies, rapid containment protocols like islanding compromised systems to stop the spread. Equally vital are robust data backup and restoration tests. Knowing you can quickly restore data is crucial for minimizing downtime and losses.
Your digital lifeboat.
Precisely. Adopting secure by design principles is also key. embedding security into every stage of development and procurement rather than bolting it on later.
Building security in from the start.
Yes, minimizing attack surfaces, eliminating default credentials, enforcing strong authentication like multi-factor authentication, MFA, and zero-trust architectures. Zero Trust operates on never trust, always verify, assuming every user and device could be a threat.
A fundamental shift in thinking.
It is. Strong third-party risk management, or TPRM, is also non-negotiable, especially given those supply chain attacks. Meticulously scrutinizing vendor security practices, establishing formal vendor risk management programs, diversifying supply chains.
Trust but verify your partners.
Absolutely. Continuous monitoring and threat detection are fundamental. Real-time threat detection like endpoint detection and response, EDR, security operations centers, SOCs, watching 24/7. These are essential for identifying intrusions early before major damage occurs.
Catching them quickly.
And of course, cybersecurity awareness training. Regular and gating training for all employees on phishing, social engineering, password hygiene, fostering a security-focused work culture where everyone understands their role is key.
The human firewall.
Indeed. And finally, let's look at cybersecurity spending trends. Worldwide spending on security and risk management is growing significantly, 11.3% projected increase for 2023. On average, 11% of IT budgets globally are now allocated to security.
So money is flowing in that direction.
It is. Many organizations are even onboarding new cybersecurity providers, specifically due to rising geopolitical conflicts. Interestingly, policies on paying ransoms vary significantly. Nearly half, 47% of U.S. IT pros surveyed said their organization's policy is to always pay, compared to just 7% in Japan.
Wow, big difference. Who's least likely to pay?
Governments. 43% indicate they never pay ransoms. This diversity highlights the complex calculations organizations face after an attack.
That's a comprehensive look at what organizations can do. But this isn't just about individual companies, is it? This is a national and global security challenge.
Absolutely. It requires a broader strategy.
Expanding on organizational preparedness, national strategies, and robust public-private partnerships seem absolutely paramount. Governments are increasingly recognizing this, setting up independent cybersecurity agencies, developing national security plans for critical infrastructure.
A necessary shift to a more strategic posture.
A major area of focus for global stability is regulatory harmonization. Striving for international consensus on cyber norms like non-aggression against civilian infrastructure alongside harmonized definitions and aligned regulatory frameworks. Think of the EU's NIS2 Directive Cyber Resilience Act. TORARA.
Trying to get everyone on the same page, basically.
Right. Reducing complexity and raising the collective defense posture globally, building a common defensive front.
Deterrence and enforcement are also evolving. Nations are developing credible offensive cyber capabilities, not necessarily to use them, but to raise the cost of an attack for potential aggressors.
Like cyber Mayday mutually assured disruption, something like that. This also involves issuing timely and public attribution statements, backed by intelligence, and establishing clear deterrent consequences, sanctions, diplomatic pressure, counter cyber ops.
Showing there are consequences.
Furthermore, capacity building is crucial, investing heavily in training a skilled cybersecurity workforce to address that global talent shortage, supporting R&D, promoting cybersecurity education at all levels.
Building the human capital needed.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The ultimate defense isn't just technology or individual nations. It's about building a collective, resilient ecosystem. And that's where public-private partnerships, or PPPs, become absolutely vital.
The synergy between government and industry.
Fostering close, continuous relationships between critical infrastructure providers who are largely private and governments. Establishing robust, two-way information sharing mechanisms like ISACs and SOCs. Promoting real-time threat intelligence sharing, like through NATO, QA, StopRansomware.gov.
Sharing information is key.
Governments are also providing direct investment incentives, tax deductions, loans, subsidies to encourage the private sector to invest in enhanced cybersecurity beyond basic compliance. It's a shared responsibility because a chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
Indeed. And the landscape of cyber conflict is in this state of constant, incredibly rapid evolution. As we've discussed, new technologies like AI are enhancing defenses, but are simultaneously being weaponized by attackers, lowering the barrier to entry and increasing the scale and speed of operations.
The arms race continues.
Relentlessly. The financial and societal costs are immense and growing. This raises an important overarching question for all of us.
Right.
Given this constant evolution, how do we ensure that our defenses, our legal frameworks, and even our ethical considerations remain agile, adaptable, and robust enough to effectively protect the infosphere, that totality of our physical and digital existence for future generations?
That's the billion or trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. It's not a static problem with a fixed solution. It demands perpetual vigilance, constant innovation, and a collective, unwavering commitment to adaptation from all of us.
So, as you can clearly see, our increasingly digital world, while offering incredible convenience and connection, also presents this profound and often unseen vulnerability. Understanding cyber warfare is no longer just for security experts or government strategists. It's a critical component of being well-informed in the modern age. It impacts everything.
From global politics to our personal safety.
Thank you for your time and participation in this essential discussion. If you found this information valuable, please consider liking this video, sharing it with others, and subscribing to the Global WarWatch Network for more analyses like this. We also invite you to share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below, and join us on social media. You'll find all the links in the description.